Welcome to Think Global Education Services. Today we are doing a very short video on punctuation, SAT writing rules, the grammar rules. We've already covered subject-verb agreement, pronouns. We've covered verb tense in the previous videos. Punctuation is tested a lot. However, there are not a lot of things that can be taught here. You just need to know the rules. But I'm going to make sure that you at least know a few things, which I'm sure you know, but you probably have forgotten, or maybe you just miss it out. So let's quickly go through certain punctuations that are frequently tested. And of course, we'll be doing more questions once we start doing the real SAT question paper and we solve the questions from there. Let's look at comma. So we definitely know what punctuations are, right? Punctuations as in comma, semicolon, or you can say full stop, or you could probably talk about apostrophe or colon or dashes. So not all the punctuations are tested, but yes, a few are. So let's look at a few of these. The first one is commas. We use it in our daily life a lot. Let's figure out the places where all we should definitely use commas. When we list items, we of course use commas. We've seen that A, comma B, comma C. So if we have number of items. Differentiate between items that are not intended to be used together. Now, this is something that not a lot of people are familiar with. Let me tell you what do I really mean here. When I say differentiate, what I'm really trying to tell here is something like, if you say A, comma, B, comma, C, three things, all of them are different. You just put in commas and then the last one goes with and D, right? But when you're talking about two completely different sentences, so something like, I go to school, sentence is over. And then you put a comma and you say, I come back. So, these two things are not directly related, but this sentence over here is not a correct sentence. You need to add and to it. A lot of people I've seen write it like this. I go to school and I come back. When you say A, comma, B, comma, C, and D, you're talking about all the four items together. All the four items belong in one list. But I go to school and I come back, they don't belong to one list. They are two completely different sentences. Yes, two different information. If you want to connect two different information, you need a comma in between. This is quite frequently tested by SAT. Comma and, comma and but, comma along with so, or comma with for. So this comma over here is basically making two different sentences come in the same place. Yes, and not making these two sentences as phrases and combined subject. So you remember in the subject-verb agreement rule, we did that when you have A and B, it becomes a compound subject, collective subject, compound subject, so it becomes plural. In this case, because I have put a and a comma before and, this means these two are separate sentences. Then it's not becoming a subject which is plural. So this is not A and B. These are not two different things combining and becoming one subject. All right. So that's the use of putting a comma between two different sentences instead of just joining it with and. Okay. Next. Now, if I look at introductory phrases or concluding phrases or middle phrases, comma can be used in all of these three. Let's look at some example to find out what do I really mean by all these phrases. Yeah? Let's look at this sentence. In the 1900s, computers had not been popular yet. What's my sentence here? If you observe carefully, a sentence means a subject and a verb going together and giving a complete meaning. Computers had not been popular yet. Yes, that's a complete sentence. In the 1900s, is that a complete sentence? It's not. So we need to put a comma after this. It's the introductory phrase. In the 1900s, which is just a phrase, not a sentence, computer had not been popular. So this is my sentence, and you can separate it with a yet. Yeah. So now you could probably keep it like this. In the 1900s, computer had not been popular yet. or so that's the introductory phase, or put a comma here and it becomes a middle phrase. Computers had not been popular. Computers had not been popular is the sentence, and then we put yet and 1900 separate. The reason why I did not put a comma over here initially, so you can keep it like this, because when you say computers had not been popular yet, it could still be a complete sentence depending on if the previous sentence and the next sentence is telling you some information about some time information. So yet denotes time. So if that's given, you do not really have to put a comma over here. Let's look at the next one. While I really enjoy ice cream, that's it. I think today I would like pie instead. I think today I would like pie instead. It's a complete sentence. While I really enjoy ice cream, it's not a complete sentence. So you connect it with a comma. While I really enjoy ice cream. So that's the first part. That's the introductory phase. To what? Introduction to the next part of the sentence of what information are you going to give. Next one. Lily, will you take out the books for me, please? So what's my sentence here? Will you take out the books for me? This is what I mean to say. And when I say please, or when I say who's doing that, these two things are adding information. So that's the middle phrase. Will you take out the books for me? That's the sentence you want to say, and you're adding Lily and please in between. So that's the use of comma. Okay, let's move on to semicolon. So semicolon always comes after an independent clause, unlike the comma. Yeah, comma comes with the phrases, except when you have a comma and. And semicolon, which is very similar to comma and or comma and but kind of sentences which I was telling you earlier, it always comes after independent clause. Okay. For example, if I say the previous sentence which I had written, if I say I go to school, and then I say I come back. So I can connect it with a semicolon. Both sentences are independent. Of course, where do I come back is going back to school. But I come back in itself is a complete sentence with its own subject as I and its own verb as come. So a semicolon, independent clause. Words that you should definitely use with semicolon are however, therefore, moreover, consequently, and nevertheless. So this is not the entire list. There are lots of other words that should require semicolon. But yes, I mean, we cannot really name all the words, but these are the ones that people usually miss, and that's why I've listed over here. Let's look at a few sentences. He's a nice person. We need a semicolon. Sentence complete. He's a nice person. Sentence complete. However, and then we put a comma. He's not fit for this job. So he's not fit for his job is also a complete sentence. However, separates it by a comma. However, he's not fit for this job. So a catch over here. If the same sentence would be written with the use of only comma and not semicolon, then what would I do? I'll write it this way. He's not a nice, he's a nice person. And then I'll put a comma. And then I'll use the word but instead of however. But he's not fit for his job. So you see, when you say but he's not fit for this job, that's not a complete sentence. But when you say he's not fit for his job or for this job, it's a complete sentence. So with complete sentence, we put a semicolon, and with the incomplete sentence, which means two different phrases or one phrase and one clause, you put a comma. Okay. Let's move to the next one. Coke tastes best with the pizza. This is because we have made our mind accustomed to this combination. If I only ended here, Coke tastes best with the pizza. It's a complete sentence. This is because it's also a complete sentence. So putting a semicolon in between. Remember that SAT will give you this kind of sentence with comma, and it probably may sound correct. But you cannot use a comma to connect two complete sentences or two clauses, independent clauses. So let's move further to colon. Colon, something like this. That's your colon. So where can we use colon? Colons are used after independent clauses and before, so it needs to be one independent clause and before the extra information. So you give an independent clause, then you give extra information. Without independent clause, you use a colon. You give one independent clause, you give another independent clause, you use semicolon. Okay, or you use one independent clause, list of item, you use colon. One independent clause, one quotation, you use colon. Example, the hungry man ate everything. It's a complete sentence, independent clause. Yeah, so just because so you don't confuse, when I say independent clause, I'm meaning that the clause does not, or these set of words do not depend on anything else. So that's a complete sentence. That's what independent clause over here is. So you look here, even the stale food, is it a complete sentence? No, it's just extra information. The hungry man ate everything is the independent clause. And what's the extra information which was not really important, but I still want to state? Even the stale food. If the hungry man ate everything and I list what all is he eating, it also can come after colon, something like this. Or if I say the hungry man said, so what did he say? I can eat everything. This is what he said in quotation. So you put a colon here. So multiple ways of using a colon. This you will be able to remember, of course, with practice. You can, of course, play this video over and over. You can note all of these information down. So you know this is where you have to use and know you can go through it. But mostly it comes with practice. Let's go to dashes. This is something like this, a dash. Yeah. So you use a dash after an independent clause, which means one complete sentence, to introduce explanation. Here you are giving extra information. Here you're giving explanation. Okay, so there's a difference. Dashes are actually overlapped a lot by double commas or single comma or colon or a lot of things. So, but we need to see which one fits best. So after an independent clause, if you want to introduce extra information, give colon. If you want to introduce explanation, use dash. You are a trusted friend. It's a complete sentence. You could have put a full stop, end of the story. But you did not. You wanted to give more explanation. Why are you a trusted friend? Because of this. You offered the most needed help. Further, the dash can also be used after an independent clause to introduce a contrast. So it's not only explanation that you give. You can give a contrast also. So here you explained why you are a trusted friend. Here you're going to go against. You are the only friend who I thought would offer help. Complete sentence. You're the only friend who I thought would offer help. And then you said, never mind. Which means instead of making a complete sentence and saying that, but you did not help me, you're just saying, never mind. That represents I've contrasted, that you did not help. This part. Yeah. Contrast. So explanation, contrast, and you can use it in the middle of the phrases, something that's not really important information and you're just giving it ahead. You can, it is exactly like using two commas and the middle phrases, just like the garbage, just extra information. Before and after the phrase in the middle of the sentence. You are the friend, complete sentence. Who offered help to me? Part of the sentence which makes the sentence complete. You are the friend who offered help to me. And you're the only friend. This is what I wanted to emphasize. I put it between two dashes. Okay, that's the use of dash. Apostrophe, I'm pretty sure you've known about it and what exactly it is. It's a sign like this. It's usually used with S. Yeah. So Apostrophes are used in two different ways, either to show the possession. Somebody, let's say if I say the boy's hat. So the boy is not really in the sentence. I'm talking about hat, but boy's hat. So whose hat is it? Boy's hat. So that's the possession. Or you can say the boys' hats. So what's the difference between these two? Here I have one boy who has one hat. Here, if I put the apostrophe after S, I have multiple boys and all of them have multiple hats. Yeah, that's one way of using the apostrophe. The other way, which we do it almost in everyday life, is something like when I say whose, or when I say its, or when I say didn't. So that's contraction. When you combine two words and make it one. Its is it is, whose is who is, didn't is did not. So when I contract, I use apostrophe. All of these rules can be tested in your SAT. Yeah. So thank you for watching Global Think Global video for punctuations today.